Hi, I am Helen White, and I am a professor in the departments of chemistry and the departments of environmental studies.
So my name is Claudia Kent. My current position is the Arboretum Director at Haverford College Arboretum. So originally, the only area that we had for growing vegetables and the like was down at HCA. And then interest grew from there. And what we did, we hired a CPGC intern to tend the farm down at HCA. So Alana Madison was instrumental. She was our intern down there 1 year, and she wanted more space. So that's when the farm moved up to its current location in the community gardens. So then Helen White's capstone class kind of got in with it.
We got together, it was just about 15 students that were taking the class in 2013, and they really wanted to work on a plan that could really articulate what the farm would look like at Haverford and how it would be funded. And so we spent the semester working on that.
The Arboretum was really interested in this as well, maybe not for, but because of being nurturing. Horticulture generally is all about nurture. So the Arboretum was also very interested in this.
So in 2013, it was a pretty interesting time for the farm because historically it had been a space for the community gardens, and then Haverford had hosted the PGA golf tournament, so it had used part of its space as a parking lot for that. 2013, we were the other side of that. The pavement had been dug up, the community gardeners were returned to the space, and the students were really excited to be able to kind of finally carve out a spot for themselves alongside the community gardeners. And then in the classroom, what we were doing was we were thinking through the various ways in which people might engage with the farm and what the farm might look like. And so, like I said, it was about 15 students. They divided up into different groups, and there was a sort of financial planning group, like how much is this going to cost? Where do we get the funding from? Are there grants for us that we can write? There was a group that was really focused on what are we going to plant? There was a kind of an initial conversation about, should we decide to plant one thing, like green peppers, and just plant green peppers for the DC? Or should we make this an experimental place for students to come and do sort of research on farming? And so really kind of digging into what is the farm going to be, or what might it be. There was an outreach group that was doing surveys and talking with other students to get their input, so across the campus, what people's ideas were. There was an educational group that was doing outreach to professors and asking them, how might you want to use the class? How might you want to use the farm in your classes, in your coursework? When we started, it was really a way to connect students that we knew were interested in environmental studies and food and farming directly to the land, and to be able to kind of get their hands dirty and engage in that practice. But as you can imagine, environmental studies students are interested in a wide range of things. And then there are also other students who are not environmental studies minors or majors who are interested in farming. And so I think that while it has maintained a steady relationship with the program, and we do support it, we visit annually as part of the introductory environmental studies class, I would say overall the farm has really opened up to be a place for anyone, a space for anyone to join. From my own perspective, in the early days I was very involved because I wanted to ensure it was successful. I would visit frequently, I participated in weekly meetings, I hired the first farm fellows sort of up until Tilly, so I played a role in that process. I interviewed student workers. I mean, I really was sort of in the weeds with everybody because I'm incredibly invested in it even today, but sort of felt like my labor was also needed. what's been really incredible is that over the years, that has really shifted to be something that the students have just taken ownership and leadership of. It's nice for it to be a space where faculty can visit and can engage, but aren't necessarily leading like we do in sort of the classroom. So it's been fun to take. It's been nice to take a step back and sort of watch it grow and evolve, and I think it continues to do so. And I'm constantly impressed by the things that the workshops that they're doing. I just got an email today about this solve workshop that the farm are doing, that Tilly's doing, and it's just really wonderful to see the energy that the students bring to the farm and the things that they're able to do in that space.
I was very, I wouldn't say hands-on to where I was actually doing the work, but especially when we had the CPGC interns, probably about maybe 8-10 years ago, I was a bit more hands-on, but I really wanted them to kind of take it and make it their own while kind of following my sort of guidelines. Like, my only requirement always has been that it has to look like it's tended. It has to look like somebody is caring for it, that somebody loves it. And over the years, especially since we got the fellow, all of my fellows have been very, very good. So over the last few years, I've stepped back even more. And I really like the farmers coming up with their own ideas and being able to go out and follow them and fulfill them, and really create their own programs.
I see it as a retreat space in some ways for students. It's not central to campus, it's very close, but it's just off of like the main hub of campus to feel like a little bit of an escape. And I think that the work of farming, it can be super labor intensive and exhausting and tiring, but it also can be meditative and really peaceful, and you can sort of get lost in that moment of gardening. And so I really, really appreciate that space. And I think that ultimately it also just produces these incredible fruits and vegetables and herbs and things like that. And that really brings people together in a way that I think we'd all like to see more of on campus, but it's challenging when everybody's so busy in their day-to-day with their schoolwork and things like that. So it's sort of, it has this kind of nice product moment to it, and that people can kind of gather around and share food, which I think is really powerful.
From an Arboretum standpoint, I think the Arboretum generally is all about education. And especially being a part of a college campus, I think that teaching people how to grow food, teaching the importance of food security, because I know that there is a lot of food insecurity on campus, and so teaching people, along those lines as well. I think that it's also all about community as well. I think especially when you get a group of students together, or a group of people in general who work together to grow food, there is a real tight bond with those people. I love, I don't go down there as often as I used to, but even when I don't see it for a few days, I love the way that it grows so quickly and it matures so quickly. I love sampling. I love walking through the greenhouse and looking at all the seedlings. I like the head house, looking at all the things on the wall. I like all the dried herbs that are hanging. And I think it's just that whole feeling of comfort that the farm gives you. And it feels it feels like a safe space.
I would say that I was thinking about my favorite vegetable or fruit or herb, and I love that question, and I always think I should change it, or I should get kind of more creative, because they're always growing new things at the farm. And I think back to some of like the amazing like dinosaur kale, like these big kale leaves they grew at some point. Like Jazara was just, I think she grew so many peppers one year. That was amazing. The herbs, everything. But what I come back to again and again, and I talked to Tilly about this recently, is the tomatoes. because they're a challenge. They're a challenge to just grow out openly in the farm. They're subject to like blight and kind of disease and things like that. So they're kind of hard, but they grow these like big juicy fruit that are really heavy, and then the plant has to stop, so you have to like stake them, right? And then you have to just tend to them. And I was talking to Tilly about this recently, and we were kind of saying they're so needy and they're so precious, but like that's kind of why I like them, because they do really they kind of really need you. And when you work with them, it's like you can work really, really hard and you don't really make that much progress with them. And then also your hands really smell, right? They have that kind of really strong smell when you work with their vines. But then they're just absolutely delicious, right? Like fresh tomatoes grown outside are just some of the best tasting food, I think. And especially given that mostly what we experience with tomatoes is in the grocery store, and it just is not the same. It's just not the same thing. And so, yeah, I'll say the tomatoes are my number one. I think when I think about what the farm represents at Haverford, I do think it represents the idea that things can change, or you can create something new that doesn't yet exist, but there's sort of a desire for it. As I said, 2009 was when I started, and students had already been farming and were all gardening and were excited about it. And so thinking about how with like commitment and a good idea, you can actually make it happen. And to have that happen in my first 5 years at Haverford, holy, that's amazing. like it's an amazing thing for me to experience. I mean, it's the student's accomplishment, but for me to experience that it was possible to do something like that, I just think is really exciting when we think ahead towards other things we might want to create or change at Haverford.